To the bands and selected. Take it on the right and the black to the back. I like the rock, but the Big Mac. If you want static, so let's go. So, open ears, go for what you know. Bro, I got ego. Yo, talking to me? No. Oh, I'm on the front and you're not on the back one. You're not soft, so you better just stop one. You got dudes, not just like the me. Rock the mic with the hump of easy. Rock. Only just the music thing. Only just the records that I sing. Now we count to three. I want you to get big. You ready now? 1, 2, 3, get loose now.
All this one's being given away. Are there any door knocking ones left? All right. Are there any door knocking shirts left?
Wish there was rainbow stuff.
We're live. All kinds of people watching me live.
Yeah.
Taking shirts.
Good job, babe.
Oh yeah, dude.
I didn't see the
Yeah, I wanted to say gang.
Very large gray ones.
Where can I change? It's very strong.
Yep.
I got enough clothes for days. Oh, they got so much clothes over there. T-shirts? Oh, they got a lot more T-shirts out there now. Maybe I can't go. Yeah, well, I'm good for that. I put in, 6-8 hours a day every day for the last 4 months. I can take a couple shirts.
everybody. Welcome to Andrew Yang's event. How is everybody? Okay, I've been sent out here to inform you guys that Andrew's on his way. Vegas traffic is terrible, all right? There's a lot of events going on. So he is on his way. But what we want to try and do, guys, is we want to try and get as close to the stage as possible. So this is a standing event, so we want to all bunch up. We're all friendly. We're all here with lots of love. So try and come up as close as we can. And so I want you guys, when I say Andrew, you guys are going to say Yang. You ready? Andrew! Yeah! Andrew! Yeah! Andrew! Yeah! Beautiful. All right. So, like I said, he's about 15 minutes away. So get excited. And when you go to the bathroom or whatever, but please try and really bunch in. Let's get close. Let's give him a nice, warm welcome when he arrives, okay? We're going to go absolutely crazy in here. All right, guys. We'll see you soon. Keep up the motivation.
All right, that's right. On top of here we go. Time and rock around. I can't easy. To rock around, to rock around. That's right on time. It's tricky. It's tricky to rock around. Talking track to make us proud. We walk up in the walk. We have no time. In the city, it's a pity. Nothing in the boutique style. It's tricky to rock around, to rock around. That's right on time. It's tricky. Tricky to rock around, to rock around. That's right on time. It's tricky. Tricky. When I wake up, people take up mostly all of my time. I'm not singing only pretty, but I need my voice. I'm not rocking people back, but don't know that was
Oh, you guys should go first.
Well, if you're feeling all right, you think you're awesome, let me know. Let's scream it out, say it out. Sing it up.
You guys off the stairs, please. No drinks on the street.
You got it.
No drinks on the stage. Only go to the truck.
Turn around, didn't need no heart. I said, I said, no, it is not like it. You see, I'm all about making that cool. I don't take no mess like TNT. I'm dynamite. You lost your mind into the holy light. And when you wake up in the morning and you see I'm gonna take it out, girl, you're all alone. Cause you just been hit by the chemical king. I rock you too, I rock you me. I rock you in, I rock you out. You make me scream, but I make you shout. So I don't need it. Let's scream, let's shout, let's turn this culture now. Keep it up, but you don't rush. Let's make this way. Let's scream, let's shout, let's turn this culture now. Keep it up, but you don't quit. Let's make this culture show. They say I'm crazy, I really don't care. That's not the right feel. They say I'm nasty, but I don't care. If we just hot out there, some nice questions. Why am I so real? But they don't understand me. I really don't understand without my pressure. Trying hard to live it life. Now you know, I it's the way that I wanna live. It's my do just what me. It's my nobody can tell me what to do. It's my what we do. I do it for you. Don't get me wrong, I'm really not free. Even Jesus not my thing. All these strange relationships never get around. I see nothing wrong. Spend myself
YTRL.
You're the best spot.
Scroll up a little bit, you're on there.
Get on the mic and get raw, back to back, run the front door to door. The new sound, rock and roll, soul to soul.
how grateful we are for each and every one of you. You have been with us and with Andrew every step of the way. We appreciate you so much. You have no idea. You have made our sacrifice as a family worth it. And as Andrew has said, this is not the end. This is just the beginning. So let us celebrate tonight. I am so thrilled to be introducing Daniel Negreanu. And it is going to be a wonderful conversation and a spectacular evening. So please join me in welcoming to the stage Daniel Negreanu and Andrew Yang.
Hello, Las Vegas. Thank you so much. Just want to give a special thank you to my incredible wife, Evelyn. Let's give her a round of applause. Evelyn! 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 I think most people are more disappointed that Evelyn won't be the first lady. Yes! Yes! This is obviously not the occasion we'd originally planned, but I have to say there's been such an incredible sense of warmth and love and appreciation for this campaign over the last 48 hours, and it definitely feels like this is the beginning of something incredible. Or really the end of a first chapter of a movement that is gaining in strength than it is a conclusion. So I hope you feel a sense of accomplishment and pride in what we've already accomplished, and you have not seen anything yet. Thank you so much. 2024! That's right, Yang Yang.
Yes! Proud to bring about, you know, the Yang Gang, no joke. So my first question to you, Andrew, is like from appearance, it seems like you have more fun than any other candidate. Is it as fun as it looks, or has this been like grueling?
Now you can tell the truth.
So on one of my first trips to New Hampshire, the chairman of the Democratic Party of the state, Ray Buckley, said to me, well, I actually asked him, because he's been chairman of the Democratic Party of New Hampshire for literally something like 30 years. So if you can imagine all the candidates he has seen come through New Hampshire over those years. And so I sat down with him and I said, hey, do you have any guidance for me? And he said, people can tell if you're enjoying yourself. And if you are enjoying yourself, then it will actually make people want to support you and follow you. And he also said, it's like people in New Hampshire can tell if you're not enjoying yourself too. You're just gritting your teeth through everything. And he said those candidates don't tend to do very well. So I heard that and I said, well, I like enjoying myself more than not enjoying myself. and apparently enjoying yourself is actually a competitive advantage in this context. So I should really try and have a good time.
Yes.
You know, the other mechanics of running is that you're in an SUV typically, like in some occasions a bus, but like 9 times out of 10 an SUV. So imagine riding in an SUV with a candidate. There are 3 or 4 of you in the vehicle. The vehicle has like Twizzlers and, you know, like just random snacks because you generally don't have time for a meal. There are like wrappers everywhere. And imagine if you were trapped in that vehicle with this person hours and hours a day, and that person's grumpy, and they're your boss. You know, like, so if you were on that team, you'd be like, oh my gosh, this is like such a slog. So I always wanted to try and keep the atmosphere positive and light for my team because I was sensitive to the fact that I don't think any of us likes riding in a vehicle with our boss. Just generally, you know, it's like if you have to fly somewhere with your boss, like the last thing you want to do is be sitting next to them on the plane. So imagine that just revved up day after day after day. So I thought that having a good time was not just important for appearance's sake, but for maintaining the morale and positivity of the people around me. Because people take their cues from you if you're leading an organization. And so if you're in a bad mood, then everyone all of a sudden becomes in a bad mood around you. And that was the last thing I wanted for my team. So I genuinely just said to myself, you know, like I should enjoy myself on this journey. And if you can't enjoy yourself when you're fighting for the things you believe in, then you're probably doing it wrong.
So first and foremost, I want to say I've been Yang Gang for a while, and you guys are a very welcoming crew on the internet. I've been a big fan, and what really drew me to you and your campaign, first and foremost, was a deeper understanding of universal basic income. And I'm curious how you were inspired or how you got drawn to this idea.
Well, I also want to give massive shout out and thank you to Daniel, who was one of the OGs of the Yang Gang before. You know, he's an incredible role model. So many people admire you, Daniel. The fact that you threw down and said, "Hey, it's Andrew Yang. It's this set of ideas," meant a lot. It took a lot of leadership on your part. So really, thank you.
Logic, you know, I'm a poker player. We think logically, and he still is the obvious logical choice.
Yes!
So I came to universal basic income over a period of years, really, where I started an organization called Venture of America that helped create several thousand jobs in the Midwest and the South. And during that time, I was reading books about the future of work quite often. And a lot of the books about the future of work are written by technologists from MIT, like Eric Brynjolfsson or Martin Ford, Rise of the Robots. I don't know if you've read any of these books, but I felt like it was part of my job to read these books. And I'd read these books, and they would often end with something saying, hey, we should really do something like universal basic income, because it's going to be a matter of time. And I saw that over the years and thought, yeah, that makes sense to me. We really should do that. And then it was a 2015 book by a guy named Andy Stern, who used to run the SEIU, the biggest labor union in the country, where he came out and said, the future of labor is no labor, we're screwed, and we need to move to universal basic income. And I thought, wow, this guy who spent decades of his life leading the biggest labor union in the country, who's argued for the primary value of human labor for decades, came and said, look, this road's not going to work, we need to evolve. And to me, that was even more powerful than when a technologist said it, because we tend to see things through our own experiences. And so technologists often say, we're going to automate away all the jobs. And then you can take it with a grain of salt because you're like, well, you wouldn't think that, you're a technologist. But then the labor guy came out and said, yeah, we're going to automate away all the jobs. And so that to me was like a conceptual bookend, where it's like you have people on both ends of the spectrum make the same conclusion. And I had come to the same conclusion by traveling the Midwest and the South over those 7 years, where if you go to a place like Detroit, Detroit's peak population was something like 1.7 million. Today it has 680,000 people in it. So imagine a city that's 2/3 empty. And imagine walking that city. And if you look at the headlines, you tend to get the extremes. You get on one side, like the hipsters and the baristas and the artist lofts. And then you also get ruin porn, where it's just like decrepit buildings and neighborhoods as far as the eye can see. And so having experienced that kind of reality of what a post-automation community looks like, combined with the conceptual bookends, I eventually concluded, you know, we need universal basic income yesterday. We probably should have passed it decades ago, back in the 60s and 70s, when it came this close to being law. And as an entrepreneur, you kind of have two attitudes about things. Number one is someone else will do it. That almost never works. So yeah, someone else will take care of it. And then number two is like, well, I should do it. And so it was really over a period of years that I concluded we needed universal basic income some time ago. And it also hit me that no one was going to make this happen. And I checked. before I decided to run for president, I called around and was like, hey, anyone who run for president, universal basic income? It's really, like, I went to like the universal basic income conference, and showed up and was like, hey, anyone actually gonna do anything about this? And I was like, no. We're just gonna talk to each other about it. And I was like, well shit, that's not gonna do anything. So I arrived at it over a period of years, and then it really hit me full force around 2016.
So you've been really the only candidate that seems to have a grasp or an understanding or is talking about artificial intelligence and automation. What makes you so sure that this leads to job loss? Because a lot of people, detractors may say, well, it creates new jobs. I mean, what is it first of all that you believe that it's inevitable, and how do you combat this theory that new jobs will be created to level it off?
Well, first, how many of you are actually based here in Nevada? Yeah, most people. So Nevada is actually #1 in the entire country, all 50 states, for the proportion of jobs that are likely to be impacted by automation because of the nature of the industries here in the state. Those industries are retail, hospitality, gaming, call centers, transportation, bartending. All of these industries are very, very highly subject to technological automation, at least theoretically. And the economics, it's like the economics are getting better and better for this stuff all the time. So what made me certain about it is that I understand how organizations function. I understand where the technology is heading. I said it in very simple terms on the stuff, is that technology is getting stronger, more powerful, more capable all the time. And generally speaking, we are not. And I joke and I say, look, I'm an adult. I'm actually glad if I don't get dumber on any given day. Like, if I found my keys today, it's like, all right, thumbs up. Like, things still work. But the technology is getting almost exponentially more powerful in a way that most people can barely conceive of. And I spoke at a group of 70 CEOs in New York City, and I asked them, how many of you are looking at replacing your back office clerical workers with artificial intelligence and software? And every single hand went up. And I knew their incentives were to try and optimize the bottom line of their organizations. And so they have to replace those workers with AI if they can do so. And so the question is, do we think that AI is going to be able to do the job of an average call center worker sometime in the next number of years? And the answer to that seems to be almost like 99.999% yes, because if you look at your interaction with a customer service representative, you don't need genuine artificial intelligence. You need a decision tree with probably hundreds of prompts and software that can detect changes in your tone of voice. But these things are very, very technologically possible now. So I'm certain about this, Daniel, in part because I understand how organizations work. And I also understand that most of the work that people are doing in these organizations is not like profound, deeply creative, intrinsically irreplaceable human work. Like a lot of the stuff we do, we all know it's like, I'm just like pushing things around, like, doing relatively repetitive tasks, like the rest of it. I mean, like just facing facts, like when you get in these organizations and you push the administrator, they'll tell you, it's like, yeah, we're trying to replace 30-40% of people.
So it seems to me that, running for president requires like raising a lot of money, right? And it seems everyone, at least on the Democratic side, is for repealing Citizens United. Do you feel like that's enough? Because I haven't heard any other real campaign reform policies that make sense other than the democracy dollars.
So the democracy dollars plan, if you're not familiar, is that we give every American voter $100 that you can give to any candidate or campaign, use or lose it. It's like an elegant way to publicly finance campaigns, and then you put the money into your hands, and then you can support whichever candidate. And I agree that talking about repealing Citizens United is inadequate in at least two ways. Number one, it requires a supermajority in a constitutional amendment to repeal Citizens United. So talking about it doesn't mean you can do it. And number two, corporate money and lobbyist cash ran the government before Citizens United. Citizens United just made it worse. There was an Onion headline that I thought was really funny, but actually correct. It said, the American people hire a lobbyist to represent our interests on Capitol Hill. And because that's like about the only thing that would work. You know, it's like you have to have a lobbyist go in there and be like, I represent the American people. You know, stop shafting us, please. Because those are the kind of people that our legislators respond to. So talking about repealing Citizens United is correct. We should repeal Citizens United, but we have to go much, much bigger to actually bring the people and the money together. Because right now, if you have money on one side and people on the other, who wins in America? Money. The money. We all know the money wins. So the question is, can we get the money and the people together? And that's why the Democracy Dollars proposal is so important.
Would that mean that, would there be like, in addition to that, sort of a law passed where corporations could no longer donate? Or could you like eliminate it completely?
That would be the goal. If you can repeal Citizens United and say, look, corporate donations are not a form of expression that are protected. That would be ideal. I mean, we're a democracy. If you have every person have $100, we like vote with that, and then we could have some ability to donate on top of that. But the $100 a piece. Right now, only 5% of Americans donate to political campaigns. So thank you to everyone who donated to the campaign. But you are highly unusual. And so if you got, and so one of the jokes I ask people, it's like, what percentage of Americans would donate if you had $100 free? Go ahead and like throw out a percentage. What percentage you got for this thing?
80.
I heard 50, 60, 70. Those sound order of magnitude realistic. Something like 55% of Americans vote, 57%, something like that, order of magnitude. So if you got 50% of Americans to donate their democracy dollars, you would wash out the lobbyist cash by a factor of 4 or 5 to 1.
Yeah, so, you've been able to create something that I don't think any other candidate has. When you decided to suspend your campaign, you had CNN and Van Jones singing your praises. You have Tucker Carlson on Fox News. Like, it's pretty unanimous. I know a decent number of Trump supporters, and the one thing they continually tell me is, I never vote for a Democrat other than maybe that JEONG guy. So, what do you think the Democrats get wrong about, Trump supporters or, everything related to that?
Your name.
I've only heard my last name right. They can identify me. I think that many Democrats have taken the position that Donald Trump is the source of all of America's problems. That everything was going great until Trump came along. And I've been trying to make the case that Donald Trump does not win unless there are actually deep problems that have been building up for a long period of time. And what I say to folks is, look, corporate profits are at record highs in the United States of America. What else are at record highs? And then everyone knows, go ahead and shout out. What else are at record highs in the United States? Yes. Suicide,
gun violence,
depression,
gun violence,
indebtedness,
gun
student
violence,
loan debt, substance abuse, anxiety, medical bankruptcy, like the temperature. So like these are all things that we all know are going on in America today, that all of these social ills are at record highs. Record lows right now in the United States of America, starting a business for a young person, getting married, having a child, things that you associate with a healthy, thriving society. So for Democrats to look up and say, hey, everything was going great, it's like, how can everything be going great if literally every negative thing you can think of is at an all-time high, and a lot of the good things you think about are at an all-time low? That's not a healthy society. And so we need to start curing the disease that got Donald Trump elected instead of acting like Donald Trump's the source of all of our problems. And I was really excited when a friend of mine whose mother watches Fox News and gets all of her news from Fox, she said that the only Democrat I would support in the field is Andrew Yang. She got my first name right.
Yes!
So the only Democrat I would support in the field is Andrew Yang, because he's the only one who does not seem to be judging me. And that's I think a very important lesson for Democrats, is that Democrats seem to be somewhat judgmental about Donald Trump and everyone who supported Donald Trump.
Rich people.
And that to me is not the right approach. It's like many people voted for Donald Trump for first different reasons, but also very legitimate concerns about the fact that our government has not been responding to the needs of a lot of people, a lot of families, a lot of communities for a long time.
Right, so, on that note, how do we beat someone like Donald Trump in the general election?
I genuinely think I would have beaten Donald Trump. That's why I ran. I thought I had a great chance to beat him. If you look at the people who are in the field, I still do. You know, I unsuspend.
Yes! Unsuspend! 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 Unsuspend!
I appreciate that. We'll be back then. I know. But in terms of beating Donald Trump in the fall, it's so interesting. It's like I know obviously many of the candidates pretty well at this point. They all gave me a call over the last number of hours. I was very popular over the last 48 hours. I gotta say, a lot of people blowing up my phone. I'm inclined generally to say, look, this is what this process is about, is that like someone is going to emerge right now in person in the general. But it is a tough call to see which of the people in the field is going to be able to beat Donald Trump in the fall. I think Trump's going to be very, very formidable. Is going to have significant levels of resources, and many, many Americans who are very bought in. And so it's going to be a tough race in the fall. And I don't think anyone looks at the Democratic field and says this particular person is like 100% slam dunk.
So you put out a tweet a few months ago that really got everyone in the poker community super excited about online poker. You said something very logical and practical, and we're all like, yes, this is our guy. The state of online poker now in the U.S. is it's regulated in Nevada, in New Jersey, Delaware, Pennsylvania, at the state levels. Do you see a possibility for something to be passed at the federal level, or is this something that needs to be just done state by state?
I 100% think this should be done at the federal level. I think generally speaking in this country, if you have a state-by-state hodgepodge, it's not helpful for anyone. And this applies to legalization of marijuana as well. I have to give credit to the folks here in Nevada, where it was someone here in Nevada. You might even be in the room if you're here. Oh, you're here, nice stuff. I do. So I had a town hall here in Las Vegas, and then he came up to me like afterwards, we were doing selfies, and was like, "Hey, you should really talk about a federal legalization of online poker, because right now you've got the state-by-state hodgepodge, and it doesn't really make sense." And so I heard that, and I was like, instinctively, I was like, "Yeah, this guy's right. You were right." And you know what's funny is these are the kinds of problems that most politicians don't talk about. But to me, these are the problems we should be talking about, because it would clarify the state-by-state set of rules. It would make it so that certain people are able to trust more so in like the companies that are administering these. It would also make it so that people who make a livelihood in this space would have greater clarity and protection. And so, like, what was your name again? Noah. So when Noah said to me, "Hey, you should really come out for the federal legalization of online poker, because it would bring this business back onshore. Right now, everyone's using these weird, janky." Not all of them, because there's some domestic stuff too, and you can do it in the state. But like a lot of people are using these offshore sites, and I was like, why the heck are we pushing this stuff out of the country? It's like we should be bringing it in and just make it easier for you to trust, and like have odds that you trust, and just legalize it at the federal level. So when Noah suggested this to me, I was like, this reminds me of a lot of other issues that we're attacking in a way that does not make any sense. We should have an approach that works for the entire country.
So you clearly created a movement, right? Gang gang.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of people were disappointed, after New Hampshire when you decided to suspend. So what do you tell these people? What's next for the Yang Gang movement? Because it doesn't stop here, right?
Unsuspend.
So you should all know that I fully expected to run until the last dog died. Like I was going to stay in the entire primary season because I started out on this journey and I was like, I don't have a political seat to protect. Like I'm in this to advance incentives and a vision for the country. I think could excite many people. I want to get this across the finish line. I want to grow the movement. And so for the longest time, I was like, well, of course, like it doesn't really matter what happens in the early states. Like I'm just going to keep on advancing through the calendar. And it was only after some people I like and trust came to me and said, hey, like if you want to maximize the potential of this movement, you're actually better served with like a different timing structure because of a number of factors, and they laid them out. And I looked at it and I was like, these guys seem to be talking sense. Like I consider myself a very, very rational, data-driven person. So if someone presents like a very data-driven case to me, I look at it and be like, all right. And so we got out. And who presented that case? There's a bunch of people working the team. Some of them backstage. Some of them we pay for good advice. And so after I was persuaded, I said, you know what? If we drop now, then we can continue to build a movement in different ways. To your question. And that's the direction we're going to head. So you'll know more in the next number of, let's call it, I would say somewhere in like, I don't want to put it because some of them guys going to kill me.
Minutes.
But I will say something somewhere in between the next like 2 to 6 weeks. Like we'll have some kind of announcement. And I have to say, there has been such a love fest about me and the campaign after the fact, where when I talk about my phone ringing off the hook, I mean, it's like everyone from Barack Obama called to like, but there are a bunch of news organizations too that now are very excited about the ideas of this campaign. And there is a little bit like, like where the fuck were you? There's of course a little bit of that. This would have been nice. Like, February 9th. But the ideas of this campaign are actually gaining currency and strength. And the really funny thing is that it does seem to me over the last 48 hours that my no longer being a presidential candidate has actually enabled more people to be like, okay, now that you're out, like your ideas are actually. So I'm very, very proud of the fact that we ran a campaign that in many ways transcended politics. That there was like a war of ideas that we can still wage and still win outside of the mechanics of a primary race. And I think that's great. Like there were some things I was doing on the trail that were very, very helpful if you were running for president, but may or may not be the best way to advance the ideas, the goals on a larger scale. So I'm going to take advantage of this period to try and advance the ideas of this campaign on the largest scale possible throughout the country.
Last question I got for you. So obviously you're like the belle of the ball, or whatever they call it, where every other candidate is looking to, I've been on Twitter and it seems like every camp is like, join us, please, right? So everyone wants a piece. And what would it take for a candidate to get an endorsement from you?
Again, right now I'm inclined to let the democratic process play out, and I will back wherever the nominee is. But look, if you stand up and say we should give every American $1,000 a month,
yes,
make the ideas of this campaign very, very important and central to yours, and you do it in like a way that's clear that this is going to be top of your agenda as president. I've already said to the field, like, look, if you come out big for universal basic income, then the odds of my endorsing you would be like very, very high, like as a significant time frame.
What if Trump
And-
said UBI?
Oh,
No, if anyone comes out for universal basic income, then the odds of my endorsing them would be like very, very high in that, you know, relative time period. And again, they all have my phone number, so they know how to get in touch with me. So that would be one very, very big move. Like others, they have been talking to me about, and I think it's safe to say that if we win, like there's a high chance that I want to try and take a role in the administration. If it was a high enough impact role, we could start solving some of the problems. I think I said in the Atlantic, it's like I'm not a dick, so like, so if you want us to do some work, you know, like I'm happy to do work.
Secretary of Technology.
Yeah, so Vice President and Secretary of Technology are two roles that we really do need to catch our government up on technology policies in like the worst way. We're like so far behind.
Then run against him.
And so I will say the other candidates are calling my team and I trying to get me to see if there might be a way to endorse. And the timing is such that those conversations are hot and heavy now because the field is very much trying to sort itself out over the next 2.5 weeks. And the people here in Nevada will have a very, very big voice in that. So to the extent that you want to make your voice heard, I will also say that Andrew Yang is still on the ballot. Here in Nevada. That's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a big total at the end of the primary process and being like, look how many people voted for the freedom dividend. You can do it all. Listen.
Well, I just want to say on behalf of all the Yang Gangers, you know, thank you so much for making it out here because, you know, obviously, you know, this is a trip you didn't have to take, and I think we all really appreciate it and are excited to see what comes next. I know for me, you know, coming into this election cycle, I really wasn't all that inspired by anyone until you came along, and that's still the case. Yang Gangers for life.
yes! Yay for life!
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Las Vegas. I love you all. This crowd is going to be tremendous to me, and we will be back. So get ready.
Andrew Yang! Andrew Yang! Andrew Yang! Andrew Yang! Andrew Yang! Andrew Yang!
Thank you, Las Vegas. You guys are the best. Keep an eye out because the interviews are keep on growing, and we're going to help advance our way of life to make this economy work for our people, our families, our values. Let's make it happen. Thank you all so much. Okay, everybody.
I wish you would have waited until after Super Tuesday.
Yeah, no, this timing was the best thing.
I'm sure you guys reason.
When I got talked into it, they made sense to me. They were right.
Well, you're definitely affecting this country.
Thank you very much. Thank you, kind sir. Thank you. You rock. Thank you.
Maybe a quick shout out to the Universal Basic Income for America page.
Sure. Universal Fish Weekend for America. We're gonna make it happen. Your name's gonna be in the future.
You're amazing.
I just finished your book. Do you think you could champion a prosperity index to match the Dow? Champion a prosperity index.
Bernie Champagne loves you, man. After that, prosperity index.
To match the Dow, make CNBC give us a prosperity index.
Thank you very much. Andrew, thank you so much, man.
You're the doer of
We're starting to walk around here working their campaign. Thank you very much. Can I get a selfie with you? That is.
Signing off real quick. Come in with NDA. Fight's not over. You get that universal basic income. Down there, okay?